This is Aaron from PhotoshopDemos.com, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about extracting a background from an image. And there's really three methods or three ways to select in Photoshop. And the first way is using the Magic Wand tool. The second method is using the Filter Extract, which can also be accessed by Alt-Control-X or Alt-Command-X on the Mac. The other method is doing it manually, and doing it manually just requires tracing the image out with your pen tool using a path and then turning that path into a selection. And in this case, on this difficult subject where we have glass that is transparent against a white background, well, if we were to say extract this image from this white background or select this cup from this white background, we would be left with these areas being very white. And let's say you were going to put this against a very colorful background, none of that background would really show through in these transparent areas. So we need to make sure that happens. So just kind of showing you the different methods using the wand tool, the Magic Wand tool. If I set this tolerance to 5, and this is the tolerance is really what controls the selections with the Magic Wand selection tool. So you'll notice using that, if I select that magic wand, you can see I've got a selection here, and that's basically selected a certain amount of pixels, and the pixel data is based on the color value that is within those pixels. And the more tolerance you have, the more color value it's going to recognize or combine. So in this case, with a low tolerance, it's going to select a very small amount of color, versus having of 20 for the tolerance, I now have a much larger area selected. It's basically selected the whole image, and we don't really want that, and that's not really an ideal type of way to select, because in this case we don't have a solid background color that would allow us to make that type of selection. If you were doing blue screening, or if you had a solid green screen behind there, it might be a little bit easier to just use the Magic Wand tool, but in this case that's not going to work. So the other method is using the extract tool, and the extract tool is kind of a unique tool in Photoshop which will more precisely do what you want to do in terms of removing a background. So one thing that I like to do is turn on the smart highlighting, and smart highlighting, what that will do for you when selecting your edges is it'll automatically adjust the brush size of your selection so that it kind of like molds to the shape or the contour of the object. So as I go around here, this is basically what you're going to do. You're going to highlight or outline the edge of this object, and I'm just using a regular mouse. If you're using a stylus or like a pen style mouse, commonly known as like a Wacom tablet, it might be a little bit easier to do this. You might be able to get a little bit more precise, but I'm just going to do this quick and dirty for the tutorial, and you're just going to follow that outline. And in this case, I'm zooming into an object that is rather blurred out, so some of these edges are going to be very, very soft, and if you want to include those, any of the soft areas are better to highlight a little bit more. So in this case, like let's say you really want to include some of these softer edges, the better thing to do is make a larger brush size and then go ahead and outline those fully. Okay, you can kind of go over them again, and even though I have smart highlighting turned on, going over them again and using a larger brush size will start to select more of that edge. So I'll just go ahead and finish outlining this object. Once that's kind of wrapped up, I'm just going to take my eraser tool and sort of just clean that edge up, just a slight bit there, and kind of clean this up. So it's better just to kind of go through and clean up your edges if you like. And with this tool, you don't want to really so much go totally outside the line or inside the shape. You kind of want to do it in between so that you're kind of going right along the edge of the object, so you get a little bit of the background and a little bit of the object. And then you'll see why I'm going to do that in a minute. Now once you have that path fully closed, or that outline fully closed, you can then use your bucket tool. And the bucket tool, you're just going to go ahead and click right inside, anywhere inside that shape. You'll notice that it'll turn a blue color, and that's just by default. If you want to completely change that, you can come over to green or blue and change that however you like. But in this case, everything's fine. We're going to go ahead and hit preview so we can see exactly what this is going to look like and what kind of results are going to render out. Alright, so now we've extracted the background, and as you can see, that tool, it works pretty well. We've gotten rid of most of the background. We still have some edges, soft edges here. If you need to clean anything up, like say these edges here, what you can do is use this tool. This basically, it makes the mask transparent, and you'll see that it kind of like starts to erase some of that stuff. If that's not the effect you want to get, you also have this clean edge tool, and if you use that, it kind of cleans up the edges. Sometimes, depending on how your selection was, it will sort of bring back some of those edges. In this case, we're just trying to kind of clean up some of these loose pixels and loose edges. So it's a good idea to start with this tool, because what it'll do again is just get rid of some of those loose edges and loose pixels. Can kind of clean it up that way, and then go ahead and use the transparency tool to go ahead and further clean up the edges. And again, this is just erasing or making some of that mask that we just added a little bit more transparent. And then once that's fully finished and you've kind of cleaned up your edges, you can check it, because this pattern is a little bit hard to see things against. So you can use the white matte or the gray matte to then kind of check your edges to see exactly if they are how you want. In this case, everything looks pretty good. Up here, I selected the edge fairly well. I used a bigger line. A fatter selection, so it did kind of grab a little bit of those soft edges, which is good. So that looks pretty okay. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and hit OK, and now you can see I've extracted that shape right from the picture. So play around with the two techniques that I just showed you. The third technique I'm going to put in a different video because it's very detailed and there's a lot more steps that are involved. So thanks for watching this tutorial. Hope that helps. Have fun with it. And this is Aaron from PhotoshopDemos.com.